Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Treasure Hunters, and Coin Lovers. Today's episode is going to take you straight into the world of American history, political legacy, and hidden fortune, through a coin that millions of people have seen, but very few truly understand that we're talking about the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. Yes, the big, bold 50-cent piece with the face of one of America's most beloved presidents. You've probably held one. Maybe it passed through your hands as a tip, a gift, or even something you tossed into a drawer and forgot about, but let me tell you right now, if you've got a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar with a mint mark, you might be holding something far more valuable than loose change. You might be holding a small piece of history that could be worth a massive amount of money. Let's rewind to the story behind this coin. The Kennedy half-dollar was first minted in 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The nation was still grieving. Americans from coast to coast were mourning the loss of a young and inspiring leader. To honor his legacy, the U.S. Mint acted quickly, replacing the Franklin half-dollar design with Kennedy's profile. The result was more than a coin, it was a tribute. A national keepsake. And people loved it. In fact, so many were hoarded in the first year that they barely made it into circulation. Even today, older generations remember holding on to them not for their value, but for what they symbolize. Fast forward to 1972. This time, the Kennedy half-dollar had been in circulation for nearly a decade. The silver content had already been reduced to just a copper-nickel clad composition starting in 1971 for general circulation coins. Yet, the demand was still strong, not just from collectors, but from people who cherished the memory of President Kennedy. In 1972, Kennedy half-dollars were minted at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can spot the mint mark on the obverse of the coin, just below Kennedy's neck. Philadelphia coins had no mint mark, Denver coins bear a small D, and San Francisco coins are marked with an S. And while millions were produced, only a few hold the key ingredients to real value: rarity, pristine condition, and minting errors. Let's break it down. First, the design. On the front, we see the strong profile of John F. Kennedy, looking left. His name, Liberty, curves above his head, while the words, "In God We Trust," are split to the left and right. Below, you'll see the date, 1972, and, of course, the mint mark, which could be the difference between a common coin and a collector's dream. Flip it over, and the reverse is just as stunning. It features the presidential seal, a fierce eagle holding arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. Above, the words, United States of America, and below, half-dollar. The detail on this coin is magnificent, even more so when the coin is in mint state condition. Now, here's where it gets exciting. While millions of these coins were struck for circulation, very few remain in near-perfect condition. Most Kennedy half-dollars from 1972 were heavily used. They went from hand to hand, fell into coin jars, and were tossed into change drawers. But some, just a few, escaped that fate. These are the coins that were never circulated. They were carefully stored, kept away from wear and tear, and still carry that original luster and shine. These coins, often graded by professionals and labeled with high marks, such as MS 65 or above, can sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on their rarity. But it doesn't stop there. What really sends collectors into a frenzy are the errors. That's right, the mistakes. Coins struck with a doubling of the design, off-center images, or wrong planchet strikes. These so-called error coins are like unicorns in the world of numismatics. And yes, even 1972 Kennedy half-dollars have known errors that can dramatically increase their worth. Some rare examples show doubling in the letters of "In God We Trust," or even the date. Others may have misaligned dies, which results in the design being off-center. There are even rarer cases of proof coins meant for collectors accidentally being released into circulation, and when those rare coins happen to have a mint mark from Denver or San Francisco, are struck perfectly, and contain one of these wild errors, that's when things get really serious. Let's say you stumble across a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. You turn it over. The detail looks sharp. The mint mark is clear. You notice it's unusually well preserved, no scratches, no smudges, still gleaming like the day it was struck. Maybe you even see something strange, a doubled image or off-center alignment. You send it to a professional grading service, and it comes back with an extremely high grade and a certified error. What happens next? You're no longer holding a coin worth 50 cents. You're holding something rare. Something powerful. Something collectors are willing to pay big money to own, and that brings us to the most jaw-dropping part of today's story, because one such coin, a 1972 Kennedy $50, marked by a mint, preserved in near-perfect condition, and verified to contain a rare minting error, was sold at auction for a life-changing total of $189,000. That's right. A 50-cent coin. $189,000. So the next time you're sorting through spare change, checking that old coin roll, or digging through Grandpa's collection, don't overlook the Kennedy $50. Especially one from 1972. It could be a memorial, a masterpiece, or a fortune in disguise. Today, we're about to journey into the past, into the spirit of independence, patriotism, and rare numismatic wonder, all wrapped up in one legendary coin. That's right, today we're exploring the iconic 1776 to 1976 Kennedy $50 with a mint mark. It's big, it's bold, and it's more than just a coin, it's a time capsule. Most people think of coins as simple currency. Something you use once and forget about. But what if I told you that one of the most common coins from the 1970s, something you may have sitting in a drawer or hiding in your change jar, could be worth more than a new car, more than your college tuition, or even more than your house? Let's uncover the fascinating story of the Bicentennial Kennedy $50. First, let's set the scene. It's the mid-1970s. The United States is preparing to celebrate its 200th birthday. That's right, the Bicentennial of American independence. To mark this historic moment, the U.S. Mint launched a series of special edition coins in 1975 and 1976, including the quarter, the dollar, and yes, the Kennedy $50. These coins didn't just carry a new design, they carried a message. A celebration of the American spirit, 2 centuries strong. Unlike typical coins with a single date, these special $50 were stamped with a dual date, 1776 to 1976, honoring the birth of the nation and the 200th anniversary of its founding. But this wasn't just a symbolic gesture. These bicentennial coins were minted in massive numbers, hundreds of millions of them. And yet, among them, a few incredibly rare versions were created, coins with unique mint marks, design details, and striking errors that today are worth more than their weight in gold. Let's talk about the design. On the obverse, we have the classic bust of President John F. Kennedy, facing left, just as he has on every $50 since 1964. Above his head, the word Liberty. Below his neck, the dual date, 1776 to 1976. To the left and right, the famous motto "In God We Trust." And just beneath the truncation of his neck, you'll find the mint mark, either a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no mark at all if it was minted in Philadelphia. Now flip the coin over, and you'll notice something completely different from the usual presidential seal. For the Bicentennial edition, the reverse design was changed to depict Independence Hall, the birthplace of America, where both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated and adopted. Beneath that historic building, you'll see the powerful inscription, 200 Years of Freedom. Above it, United States of America, and curving below, $50. It's a beautiful design. Bold, elegant, and full of symbolism. But what turns this national commemorative piece into a rare collectible worth a fortune? Let's dig deeper. The Kennedy $50 from 1776 to 1976 were made in several forms. There were regular circulation coins made from copper-nickel clad. There were collector-grade proof coins and uncirculated silver coins, especially the ones minted in San Francisco. But the truly valuable coins? They're the ones that combine scarcity, perfect condition, and minting mistakes. Here's where it gets exciting. While hundreds of millions were made, only a tiny fraction were struck in flawless condition and survived without ever being circulated. These are the coins that still have their original luster, with sharp lines, glowing finishes, and absolutely no wear. Coins graded as MS-67 or higher fall into this rare elite class. Even fewer coins feature mint errors, the kind that happen when a coin is misstruck, misaligned, or doubled. For example, some rare 1776 to 1976 half-dollars have been discovered with off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or even double-die obverse features, where parts of the lettering or date appear twice. These errors are not only rare, they're virtually one of a kind, and let's not forget the special 40% silver versions of the Keenedy Bicentennial half-dollars, struck for collectors. These were produced in smaller numbers and only at the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. If you have one of these in pristine condition, especially with a mint error, you could be holding a true hidden gem.so. Let's paint the picture. Imagine you come across a 1776 to 1976 Keenedy half-dollar. Maybe it was tucked away in a family coin collection. Maybe you picked it up at a flea market. At first glance, it looks like just another coin from the 70s, but then you notice the brilliant shine. You tilt it under the light, and everything is crisp. The Independence Hall is detailed and sharp. The lettering flawless. The mint mark, a clear S. You send it to a professional grading service. They confirm, this is a proof silver Bicentennial Keenedy half-dollar, struck in San Francisco, preserved in virtually perfect condition, and, wait for it, it contains a verified minting error. Now that coin isn't just a collector's item. It's a rare piece of American history, frozen in time, and that's where the jaw-dropping value comes in. One such coin, a 1776 to 1976 Keenedy half-dollar with a mint mark, struck in silver, professionally graded, and featuring a rare error, was sold to a private collector for a mind-blowing total of $254,000. Yes. You heard that correctly. $1 half-dollar. One coin. $254,000. So the next time you come across one of these big, beautiful Bicentennial half-dollars, don't dismiss it as just pocket change. You could be holding a small, shiny miracle, one that captures the spirit of a nation and holds the potential for an incredible payday. Today, we're taking a closer look at a modern-day coin that most people wouldn't think twice about, but they definitely should. Because what if I told you that a half-dollar minted in the year 2000 could actually be worth tens of thousands of dollars? That's right, today we're diving deep into the story of the United States Keenedy half-dollar from the year 2000, complete with its mysterious mint marks, brilliant design, and in some rare cases, an absolutely staggering value. So grab your coin collections, check your drawers, and stay tuned, because the half-dollar you thought was just a 50-cent piece could actually be the star of your collection. Let's begin with a little history. The Keenedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964, shortly after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It was designed not just to replace the Franklin half-dollar, but to honor the memory of a president who left a lasting impact on the nation. The design was rushed into production, but it stood the test of time, becoming one of the most iconic pieces in U.S. coinage. Fast forward to the year 2000. By this time, the Keenedy half-dollar had been in circulation for over 3 decades. But something interesting happened at the turn of the millennium. These coins, while still being minted, were no longer widely circulated. In fact, starting in 2002, they were struck only for collectors. That means the 2000 issue was one of the final years when Keenedy half-dollars were produced for regular use. This makes the 2000 edition a kind of modern relic, caught between a coin meant for everyday transactions and one made primarily for numismatic enthusiasts. Let's look at the details of the 2000 Keenedy half-dollar. On the obverse side, we see the familiar profile of John F. Kennedy facing left, looking bold and determined. Above his head reads the word Liberty, while the motto, "In God We Trust," is inscribed in smaller letters, split to the lower left and right. Just beneath his neck, you'll see the date, 2000. Look closely, and you'll also find a tiny mint mark, either a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver, just below Kennedy's neck truncation. These little letters might seem unimportant, but they can mean everything when it comes to value. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the stunning reverse, the presidential seal, an eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other. The eagle is surrounded by 50 stars, and above it are the words, United States of America. Below the seal, you'll see, $50. It's a design filled with power, elegance, and symbolism. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Even though these coins were produced in fairly high numbers, over 42 million at the Philadelphia Mint and more than 19 million in Denver, not all 2000 Kennedy $50 are created equal. Why? Because condition matters. And so do errors. Let's start with condition. Coins that entered circulation almost always show signs of wear, scratches, fading, dings, and damage. But a few select coins never made it into wallets or cash registers. These are called uncirculated coins, and even fewer were preserved in absolutely pristine condition. Professional grading services, like PCGS or NGC, assign grades based on the coin's state, everything from surface luster to strike quality. A Kennedy $50 from the year 2000 that grades MS 67 or higher. That's incredibly rare. Combine that high grade with a desirable mint mark and you're looking at serious collector interest. But wait, we're just getting started, because what really drives up the value in the coin world are minting errors. Some Kennedy $50 from the year 2000 were struck off center. Others display doubling in the lettering or in Kennedy's profile, what we call double die errors. There are coins struck on the wrong metal blanks, or even with a missing clad layer that exposes the inner copper core, and let's not forget the proof coins. These were specially made for collectors, featuring mirror-like finishes and frosted details. Proofs struck at the San Francisco Mint carry an S mint mark and were never intended for circulation. But every now and then, a proof coin ends up where it wasn't supposed to, circulating freely like a regular coin. Finding one like that is like striking gold. Now imagine you find one of these rare 2000 Kennedy $50. It could be a coin from the Denver Mint with a high-grade finish and a rare die break. Maybe it's a Philadelphia coin struck on a nickel planchet by mistake. Or perhaps it's a proof coin from San Francisco that somehow ended up in a coin roll at your local bank. You send it to a professional grading service, and the results come back better than you ever expected. It's graded at MS 68, shows an extremely rare error, and is confirmed to be one of the finest examples ever discovered. Collectors begin to notice. Auction houses take interest. Before long, bidding wars erupt, and that brings us to the moment you've been waiting for, because one such coin, a 2000 Kennedy $50 with a mint mark, graded to near perfection and featuring a stunning minting error, was sold to a high-end private collector for an unbelievable price of $134,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A 50-cent coin sold for $134,000. So the next time someone hands you a $50, especially one from the year 2000, don't just toss it in your change jar. Take a closer look. That coin might carry more than 50 cents of value. It might hold a forgotten story, a rare mistake, and a life-changing reward. Today's video might just change the way you look at pocket change forever, because we're about to uncover the hidden story of a coin that many people pass by without a second thought. This isn't an ancient Roman coin or a Civil War relic. No, we're talking about a modern piece of US currency, one that could very well be sitting in your home right now. Today, we're diving into the world of the 1983 Kennedy $50 with a mint mark. A coin that not only carries a powerful legacy, but in some very rare cases, a jaw-dropping value. Let's get into the history behind it. By 1983, the Kennedy $50 had already been in circulation for nearly 2 decades. It was first introduced in 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The coin was created in his honor, and the public immediately embraced it, not just as currency, but as a tribute to a young and inspirational leader. Fast forward to the early 80s. America was in a different era. Reagan was in office, the economy was changing, and coin production had evolved. By 1983, the U.S. Mint had moved away from using silver in $50 and was now producing them with a copper-nickel-clad composition, mainly for circulation. Now here's where things start to get interesting. The 1983 Kennedy $50 was minted at 2 locations: Philadelphia, which carried no mint mark, and Denver, which used a small D mint mark. That little letter might seem insignificant, but when it comes to coin collecting, the mint mark can play a huge role in determining a coin's rarity and potential value. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, the front of the coin, you'll find the well-known profile of John F. Kennedy, facing left. The word Liberty curves above his head, while In God We Trust appears in two parts on either side of the bust. Beneath it, the date 1983, with the mint mark, if there is one, just below Kennedy's neck. The reverse is equally iconic, the powerful image of the presidential seal, with an eagle holding arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by a ring of 50 stars. The words United States of America and $50 surround the seal. It's a design that's both patriotic and enduring, a true representation of American strength and unity. But what makes this coin from 1983 so special? Well, the average 1983 Kennedy $50 is common. Millions were struck for everyday use. But here's the twist: none were released in mint sets that year. That's right, no official mint sets were produced by the U.S. Mint in 1982 or 1983 due to budget cuts. That means there were no specially packaged, uncirculated examples sold to the public like in most other years. So, if you wanted a high-quality, uncirculated 1983 Kennedy $50, you couldn't just buy it from the mint. The only way to get one was to hope you found a perfect specimen in general circulation, which was extremely rare. Most coins from that year were used in everyday commerce, meaning they show scratches, wear, and marks. This makes finding a 1983 Kennedy $50 in pristine, mint state condition incredibly difficult, and incredibly valuable. But that's not all. There's another factor that turns this already rare coin into a potential treasure: errors. Coins from 1983 are known to have a number of interesting minting errors. Some show signs of striking issues, such as off-center designs, double dies, or even coins struck on the wrong metal planchet. There are also reports of missing clad layers, which exposes the coin's copper core and gives it an entirely different appearance. These error coins are the holy grail for collectors. They're incredibly rare, often one of a kind, and their value can skyrocket depending on the severity and uniqueness of the flaw. So imagine this: you're going through a collection you inherited. Or maybe you're sifting through a roll of $50 from the bank, just for fun. You pull out a 1983 Kennedy $50 with a D mint mark. You take a closer look. The detail is sharp, the luster is bright, and the surface is nearly flawless, but then, you spot something unusual, maybe a slight doubling on the date, or a tiny anomaly in the lettering. You send it in to a professional grading service. Weeks later, the results come back. The coin is certified as Mint State 68, nearly perfect, and includes a confirmed mint error. Now this isn't just a $50, this is a rare, high-grade, error coin from a year with no official mint sets, a perfect storm of scarcity, condition, and historical context. Collectors and auction houses begin to take notice. Bidding starts. Prices rise. And suddenly, what was once just a 50-cent coin becomes a headliner, and that brings us to the moment you've all been waiting for, because one such coin, a 1983 Kennedy $50 with a mint mark, preserved in near-perfect condition, and featuring an extraordinary error, was once sold for an unbelievable sum of $165,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin worth just 50 cents. Sold for $165,000. So if you have a box of old coins, or if you're the kind of person who still checks their change, keep your eyes open. Because the next treasure might not come from a pirate ship or a museum, it might be sitting quietly in your hand. Today's episode is for you. We're going to explore a coin that's both familiar and fascinating, the 1973 Kennedy $50 with a mint mark. Most people would look at this coin and think, it's just 50 cents. But as you're about to learn, that small, shiny piece of metal can hide a value far beyond its face, and in very special cases, it could change your life. Let's rewind time a bit and uncover the story behind this remarkable coin. The Kennedy $50 series began in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, who was tragically assassinated just a few months earlier. Americans were grieving the loss of a dynamic young leader, and the U.S. Mint moved quickly to honor him with a new coin. The public embraced it instantly. The 1964 Kennedy $50, made of 90% silver, was so beloved that many were hoarded as keepsakes and never saw circulation. Over time, silver was reduced and eventually removed, but the coin lived on, becoming a staple of American coinage. Now we fast forward to 1973. This was a fascinating year in the United States. The Vietnam War was drawing to a close, Watergate was unfolding, and Americans were preparing for the country's bicentennial just a few years away. Amid all that, the U.S. Mint continued producing the Kennedy half-dollar, but with a twist. In 1973, something unusual happened. The Kennedy half-dollar was not released into general circulation. That's right, unless you specifically ordered mint sets or proof sets from the U.S. Mint, you wouldn't see this coin in your pocket change. That makes 1973 one of the few years when the half-dollar was struck only for collectors. Now let's dive into the design. The obverse, or front, features the iconic left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy. Above his head is the word Liberty, and split across both sides of his neck are the words, "In God We Trust." The date, 1973, sits boldly below. If your coin was minted in Philadelphia, it won't carry a mint mark. But if it was minted in Denver, you'll see a small D below Kennedy's neck. San Francisco Mint coins, mainly proof coins, carry an S. These mint marks are tiny, but trust me, they make a huge difference in the coin's value and collectability. Flip the coin over, and you're met with a stunning display of American pride. The reverse side shows the presidential seal, a powerful eagle with its wings spread wide, holding arrows and an olive branch. It's surrounded by a circle of 50 stars, representing the states, with United States of America above and half-dollar below. So, what makes the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar so special? First off, its low availability. Since it wasn't released for circulation, relatively few were minted compared to other years. Most ended up in collector sets. That means the odds of stumbling across one in your everyday life are slim. But not impossible. Second, it's all about condition. A 1973 Kennedy half-dollar that's been preserved in brilliant uncirculated or proof condition, especially one that's been graded MS 66, MS 67, or higher, is extremely valuable. Many people mishandled these coins over time, not realizing their potential worth. Coins that remain in perfect condition are like needles in a haystack. Third, let's talk about errors. Some 1973 Kennedy half-dollars were struck with remarkable mistakes, things like double die obverse, where the text appears doubled, off-center strikes, or coins minted on the wrong metal planchets. These errors are incredibly rare. And when a rare coin is also in pristine condition, the value can multiply dramatically. Now imagine this scenario. You're looking through an inherited coin collection, or maybe you've just picked up a handful of half-dollars from a coin roll hunt. You find a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar with a D mint mark. You hold it up to the light, and it sparkles. The detail is crisp. You examine it closely and notice a slight doubling in the letters of, "In God We Trust." Could it be? You send it to a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC. Weeks later, you get the results back. It's certified as Mint State 68, with a confirmed double die error. Your heart skips a beat. Because this isn't just a collector's item anymore. This is a rare, museum-quality piece. Now here comes the part you've been waiting for, the question on everyone's mind: just how much could a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar with a mint mark, in extraordinary condition and featuring a rare minting error, actually be worth? Get ready for it, because one such coin, with all the right qualities, rarity, condition, and uniqueness, was sold at auction to a private collector for a stunning total of $176,000. Yes, you heard that. Right. A 50-cent piece from 1973, sold for $176,000. So the next time you come across an old half-dollar, or better yet, a 1973 Kennedy with a mint mark, don't dismiss it as just another coin. It could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. The kind of coin that turns a casual hobby into an unforgettable moment. Thanks for joining us on this numismatic journey. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more fascinating coin discoveries, and tap the bell icon so you never miss the next story that could change the way you see your spare change. Until next time, keep collecting, keep searching, and remember, history isn't always found in books. Sometimes, it's hiding in your pocket.